news. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to see you. I saw so many people in here. I'm like, you know what? I got to start a few minutes or a minute early or so. Thank you for showing up. Much appreciated for all of you that are here. So, this is an open topic. We could talk about all kinds of different things. I know that the hot topic of the day is what happened this morning. I already talked about it as much as I'm going to talk about it. The only other way I'm going to talk about it, which is a topic I want to talk about tonight. What's up, Occult? Nice to see you. The only topic that I want to talk about tonight that would be even remotely close is I want to take this incident. You have an opportunity. You could take something, you can use it as like negative reinforcement, or you can look, hey, what's up, Tommy, Joanna, Chris? You could see it as a negative, or you could see it, or you can look for the positive and see how to be able to make a difference. And I think that the positive lining in this, because of my neighbor and the amount of communication and stuff that I have, I'm not going to be talking about it too much as far as like the details, but I'll kind of let you know a general roundabout that the community has come together, and it's a really, really important to build a community. Why is it important to build a community? Um, Especially if you're in an off-grid situation, because when the whole world breaks down, it's that community that's going to support you. And so it's the community's job to band together to start interacting with each other and stuff like that. We kind of have a community mascot, which is my neighbor that I talk about quite a bit, the one that helped me with the trailer. And sometimes he gives me rides and stuff like that. But it just, he's pretty much the glue. He's the one that everybody knows in the community, and so everybody has a role, has something that's going on. Now, I think he also keeps the peace in the neighborhood as well, because he's the guy that goes around, gets to know everybody. He's very social, because he's always out looking at property, looking at tax liens, and so he gets to know everybody in the community because he's trying to be nice and say hi and get to know people. And then what that does is, in so many ways, so he doesn't realize it, but he's become the community mayor, with whether by proxy, by seniority, or just by happenstance. So, um, this is something kind of interesting to watch unfold, because he's the only one in the community that has my number, and so he immediately reached out to me to make sure that everything was okay, so on and so forth. And he's talking with all the other neighbors. I'm finding out all kinds of stuff that's going on, because in a lot of ways, this guy has terrorized the neighborhood for a while. And so what was coming to him from me was coming to him to begin with. A lot of it, like I said, the big point for me was when he made a threat to come to my property and come after me directly. That was when I had a problem. That was when I decided to push this into over here. And so now, through him and just through what it is that I'm doing and the connections that I have, I'm trying to kind of put pressure on this situation to move it in a specific direction. Because in a lot of ways, it doesn't matter if your judge is liberal or conservative, or how it is. If there is social pressure, whether it be from the media, whether it be from whatever it may be, whatever that social pressure is going to force them to step back and reevaluate the case. Because at that point in time, they're going to sit there and go, okay, so this is a community outcry. And so, like, I'm working, just tell them, hey, look, the people that are done, and I even let them know, it's like, hey, you gotta, if people are being bothered by it, this is your time to call, to complain, to be able to say something. Because instead of just a one-off incident with just me, now all of a sudden it starts popping up that he had an issue with another neighbor, and then another neighbor, and another neighbor, and then he's been terrorizing the neighborhood for a couple of years. And the thing is, as a community, to move someone out is really hard. You can't just necessarily force somebody off of their property. You have to go through so many different avenues. And so what this became was, because nobody had really done much about it, because I was like, dude, I'm done. I'm not going to take this. I decided to do what I knew to do that would be the most effective thing to be able to do. And then what that did is it created a snowball effect, because from what I understand, he may not have a home when he gets back. Not that people are going to take his stuff or anything else like that, but there's stuff that's going on within the neighborhood, and that tells you that you're in a healthy, thriving neighborhood. Because what I'm seeing happening is that when you have an opportunity to act, so it's like, okay, this may be our only chance, let's get him out of here now. So everybody comes together, hey, I'll buy the land just so he doesn't come back, or just hypothetically stuff like that. You want to the community. Well, it's like, I would rather, because at some point I'd rather own the plot next to me than have that crazy neighbor. Okay, it's kind of that mentality. And so the community saw the opportunity, comes together, and pushes out a bad apple. Why was this person a bad apple? I wasn't the only person you had an incident with. I was the only person that vocalized the issue that I was having with them, because again, I was fed up. Um, and this is something like, if we're talking about community and building a community and having a safe community, because when supply chain breaks down, when the dollar breaks down, when there's civil unrest, when there's global unrest, when you've got an authoritarian government that may be coming after you, you may be being singled out because you're considered a dissident because of what the Department of Homeland Security is doing with artificial intelligence. And so as a community, this is how you protect yourself. This is why I am sitting there talking about, well, I've actually sent it to San Francisco Chronicle and my friend Homeless Entrepreneur, so he knows people. So I'm hoping that if you guys know people, put it out there, because if your audience says, hey, look, we want to take a look at this, but instead of spinning it as something, today was eventful. Cheers, everyone. Hey, what's up, man? But everybody has got to come together in order to be able to survive the coming apocalypse. You have got to come to a point where your community is strong enough to where you have your mayor, you have your people that are doing things. Everybody has their role. Okay. And I don't even know what my role may end up being within the community long term, but as the world breaks down, you're going to start relying on your neighbors more than at any point in time. So it's very, very important that you build this community. And I didn't know what this community was like. I'm still new here, even though I've been here for 6 months. I'm still new. I mean, once I've been here for like 2-3 years, then, I should pretty much know everything I need to know about this place. It's going to take forever to learn it because people are close knit. They're very private. They come out here for their privacy, to get away from surveillance, to get away from city, to get away from people, to get away from crap, or just to be able to have a safe place to stay that they can actually afford. Okay. So you have different reasons why people come out here. Okay. And by having this community come together and work the way it is, I think it's extremely important. I think that this is, I think that this is part of your survival. So if you're looking at going off grid, if you're looking at doing other things, I think that this is a great example of whether or not you're in a healthy community or an unhealthy community, because you can't just push people out. Okay. You can't just push people out. It's not that way. However, on the other side, when there's an opportunity, if they are a disruptor to the neighborhood, it compromises security, cohesion. They're having their issues. Because I mean, being an asshole isn't a crime. Being an asshole just means that people don't want to deal with you. But if you're not crazy and if you're not out there doing stupid stuff, people tend to tolerate you a little bit more around here for various reasons. I think it's just because nobody really wants to hassle with contention. They came out here to get away from all that crap. So instead of taking this and looking at this and going, hey, this might be scary or whatever, when it comes to land and stuff like that, this is something, now that I've got to see everything unfold, I would say that you're going to be safe out here. If you've already thinking about buying land out here, you're going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. You don't need to worry because, like I said, it's a strong, close-knit community. We have a person that makes sure that we're all bonded together, and he makes sure to move us all in good parts, because that's just his role. That's what he's good at, and with what everything he does. So, in the same sense, in that same sense, you want to be able to have a community, but you don't also want to be the asshole that's going out stopping everybody as they're driving by going, what you doing around here? Dude, come on. Whenever I hear a vehicle, Sam alerts me, I come out, I take a look at it. I usually see who it is. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. If it's somebody new, I'm just seeing, are they turning my way? Are they coming up my road? If they're not coming up my road, I don't give two shits. Because you can drive wherever you want. This is a free country. And I think that so many people forget that they spend so much time trying to impose their own beliefs, their own values, their own morals, their own ethics onto people that just don't live that way. And when that happens, you get incidences where you have community contention. Okay, so if there's any questions you guys would like to ask, please ask them and I will start answering them. By the way, guys, we got about 50-mile-an-hour winds right now. So let's see here. Let's go say hi to everybody. Wow, you guys really lit up chat. Okay, what's up, Occult? Beth, Chris, nice to see you. Joanna, Tommy. Okay, what's up, Tricky Dick? What's up, Smoking Outdoors? Chris again. Occult. Okay, we got Joanna. Okay, so we're getting, everybody's just saying hi. Florida. Okay, yeah. Okay. Tuck, did you send the video to the local news? I sent the video to the San Francisco Chronicle guy that interviewed me. I said, hey, if you want another story about a guy kind of like Zero, here you go. But I mean, a lot of it is I mean, I've shared it out. I've put it out in my mediums to be able to put it out. It's up to the viewers if you want your local news stations to see something like this. And to kind of comment on it, but don't let them put a spin on like taking away people's gun rights, because that's exactly what I'm afraid that they'll do, and that's the last thing I want to have happen. The last thing is that it's not fair to restrict it now to make people like, I don't know. There's got to be a happy medium there, because people shouldn't lose their rights over the crazy guy, and we shouldn't use that as a way to take away more people's rights. I think we should look at it as this is a sign of the community coming together, one, and two, this is a sign of how much of a failure not only the mental health system, but even people on Social Security aren't getting the necessary help that they need, even though they're on the government dole. And so therefore they are, they're having their issues, and then therefore you get an issue like this. That's really the way the conversation needs to be shaped, because it has nothing to do with gun rights, has nothing to do with it at all. And anybody that wants to spin that on that, you're doing a disservice, and you're putting out a narrative that I never intended. Okay, because I believe people have the right to gun rights. What they did, they should still have their rights. Otherwise, they should still be in prison. I could agree with that. If you are deemed safe for society or released into society, then you should have all your rights restored. Yeah, well, you gotta. There's that's a long topic that you have to get me. You have to get me behind a paywall, having a few tokes, because that's gonna be a long story to kind of explain that whole thing to you. Yeah, it was Edward. Yeah, it was him. So, cheers, Beth. Okay, hit the thumbnails up. Just a troublemaker, Tuck. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Well, I hope it doesn't get out. No, well, here's the thing. I okay, evening Tuck Sam. Okay, what's up, Invisible Man? Nice to see you. Okay. Well, I mean, I did what was required of me by law. Tuck's neighbor got out of control this morning. His point weird because Tuck has walked down the road before on a live. Yes, I've walked down that road many times. I've even said hi to him. while we're going along. No, the thing that spooked him was the fact that I was telling him about what I was doing with Stephanie, and kind of how, because I was trying to explain to him like how to be able to gain sponsorship, because he's a new YouTuber. It's like, this is how you gain sponsorship. So I told him the story about Stephanie. That's really, I think, what set him off and probably put him in a real bender, because he really did not want me to say. He's like, you can say Arizona, but you can't say Concho. It's like, okay. Um, I Are you sure, Tommy? Because I don't know what his rap sheet is. Um, Tuck is the guy, a vet, maybe seen combat, got PTSD. No, I am not a combat vet. I am a homeless vet. Being homeless, dude, you know how many times during sales, yeah, every once in a while I would have somebody threaten to go get their gun if I didn't get off their property immediately. um I would every once in a while, once in a super blue moon, somebody would answer the door with their shotgun in hand, and you're like, have a nice day. You turn around and walk away, because they're getting their kicks off in that. They don't want to talk to you, and then they like to watch the reaction. So they get a little bit of humor out of it. That's why they open up the door. Um, you know what? I will have to go through. I will post it in the community tab. Okay, you don't have to be a comment to have PTSD. Yeah, my PTSD comes from a work accident. Um, that's the big thing. But mm, how's Signal, guys? Is Signal pretty good? Okay. Um, Okay. Regardless, if you like, you should still. Nah, okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. Okay. So we've gotten all that. All right. And by the way, where is he? What's up, 7AZ Bear Grow 420? Um, so sorry, top drawing, not your neighbor. Um, no, wrong. Yeah, there's quite a few neighbors, and I want to be able to get to know them. I'm gonna have to go up to the bingo parlor at on a Monday, like at 5 p.m. on a Monday. I can go into the bingo parlor. I want to get to know all the old ladies, see which one of them wants to take me home. Tuck said the guy has a diagnosis. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he got a check, so he got something. There was a reason, and from what I understand, from what just and kind of what I picked up, you could tell that there's it was either an extreme bipolar, which I don't think that really is, or it is a paranoid schizophrenia. But I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose him, and nor do I know his stuff. But that was kind of what I picked up on, because my uncle was paranoid schizophrenic. So after you've seen it enough, you kind of learn how to pick up on it real quick. All right, what's up, Kung Fu? Okay, bingo parlor. Yeah, all clear. Okay, so texted the guy has, yeah, okay, so, but yeah, you know what though? I mean, yeah, this is what I was trying to explain, because you know some people want to be compassionate towards the homeless and the less fortunate. And you should be compassionate towards the homeless and the less fortunate. But you should also use discernment. There is unhealthy behavior, and then there is healthy behavior. Okay, part of why you have some sort of diagnosis is because there's a little bit of unhealthy behavior. But to what extreme does it manifest itself? That's really the question. Because somebody with PTSD, okay, great. A lot of people with PTSD end up out on the streets because of the PTSD. It happens. A lot of people that spend time either in the drug world or homeless do have a lot of trauma, whether it be from being an adult or being a child. A lot of them still have trauma, and so they cope with it in different ways. Now they have unhealthy coping mechanisms, but are they unhealthy to begin with? No, because if properly managed, it is healthy, and it is not volatile. If unhealthily managed and left to its own, then it becomes disruptive and becomes a safety hazard to a community. And at that point in time, the community can either intervene and say, you need to get your shit straight, or you can have a community intervene that as soon as you finally go off the deep end and cross the wrong person, that they're all going to show you exactly what they think of you. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. um, it's perfectly fine. Uh, but I don't know. That's just my opinion on this. I don't think that you should just sit there and take a person's diagnosis and automatically put them there, because I've seen people with extreme diagnosis, but they manage it well, and when they manage it well, I mean, my best friend is autistic, and usually they want to add a crap ton of pills, but yet he's able to manage without all those pills. Okay, and the reason why him and I are friends is because even though he has that crazy diagnosis, and yeah, he is very dangerous, um, on the other hand, he's got his shit together. Like, I've tried to pick fights with him, and he won't fight me because he knows, and I know that he will thrash me, and that I don't stand a chance, and that will probably be my first ever fight that I've lost, and I don't really want to go, like 10-1. I want to stay 10-0. You know what I mean? So yeah, there was a time I tried to pick a fight with him because he pissed me off so much, and he just sits there and laughs at me. It was kind of funny. I can look at it and laugh now, but then I was so pissed. But you know what? Owning a business, and especially a service-based business, in a when you have high amounts of competition, is extremely stressful. Okay, let's see what we got here. There's folks that are harmless, and then there's folks that are dangerous. Yeah, it just depends. Because I mean, I've seen some bipolars that do really well, and I've seen some that have really fucked themselves up. So, Joanna, okay, but there's people who are harmless until they're not, like a dog that doesn't bite until it does. Just saying, yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Is like, this was the most aggressive I understand that he got. So being the most aggressive, it allows everything to um it allows everything to kind of, I don't know. I lost my thought. My brain's kind of still mush. Okay, right, Chris. I don't like to be filmed. I don't like to want to be on social media. I never even been on Facebook nor Twitter. Well, tricky dick, but yet you're here on YouTube and you're commenting, so you're here, but you don't have to be on camera. Okay, but the thing is, when somebody says, "I want to do an interview with you," 90% or more of all YouTube channels are like this, where you have a talking head either with a lot of cinematography or something like this within specific niches and communities. Okay, so to expect that, and I set the stage. I said, "Yeah, you will sit down. We'll sit down in front of the camera." It's like, "Yeah, we'll sit down. We'll smoke a ball." I was like, "Well, we can't do that. Not on camera." Stuff like that. And again, I think that this was more about the fact that he felt threatened by the fact that I'm trying to help Stephanie sell land out here, and by trying to help her sell land out here, he thought that there would be too many people come, and then he would lose his place, and so therefore that set him on a tiffy. Because again, he'd never worried about being filmed before. It wasn't until I talked to him about how to monetize his channel before he gets to 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, and I think giving him that advice, he just didn't like that part of it, and I think that that's really what spun this whole thing out of control. Um, because yeah, he went from being nice to, you could tell there was something different, but you don't know if you're just being paranoid, or if you really picked up on something. Um, yeah. So I mean, it was. Okay. What's up, Edward? Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, look, I can, no harm should come to this guy. We don't need to harm him. What we need to do, in a lot of ways, is um, I don't know. The guy needs to be dealt with. He either needs to properly manage whatever the hell is wrong with him, and if he cannot manage it and is as volatile as he's going to be, then he needs to be in an institution. Because at this point, society doesn't need more dangerous people. We've got plenty of them. Okay, and the police. It took them what, 4 hours to show up, 3 hours to show up before to deal with, and that was an active shooting. I mean, like, think about this. So I gave him a fifth wheel he's living in. Then 2 days later he came down, and down super aggressive, talking shit. He needs to get help for sure. I don't know, but thanks, Shell. Um, but no harm. He needs, yeah, because here's the thing. There's in the 80s when they found out how bad the mental institutions were, they put all those people out on the streets. And a lot of those people are still either out on the streets or um the next generation of those crazies are now out on the streets or living in an off-grid situation on social security because the system failed to help them. They decide to make the situation worse by kicking them all outside. That's why San Francisco has the homeless problem it has. That homeless problem was never there until because there was like 3 mental institutions and then they sent them all to San Francisco. Okay. That's how San Francisco got overran with homelessness. And this is just a lesson to be learned, is that the system has failed because it's too busy trying to fit you into a box and then give you a pill as if the magic pill will fix everything with you. And sometimes it's not a chemical imbalance. A good portion of the time, it's not a chemical imbalance. A good majority of the time, it's just learned behaviors that need to be corrected, also known as behavioral modification training. There are certain things that we have been taught. I had to go through this. That's how I was able to get so many years of stability before I ended back out on the streets. And it took me over a decade of going homeless off and on before I finally realized, like, look, I actually am the one causing all of my problems. I had to spend 23 days in the hospital over it. And it was a huge wake up call and a reality check. And the thing is after my work accident, they put me on workman's comp. After 30 days, they forced me back on the job when I went in there to quit originally, and they wouldn't let me and forced me on workman's comp. And then I told them I never wanted to come back anyways, but fine, if you're going to put me on workman's comp, fine. And I just figured I'd wait until they canceled me. But the thing is, because it took me so long, they also used that as an excuse to turn me down. And so instead of being able to get the help I needed, because this was something in a work-related injury, this was a work-related injury, I got basically thrown to the wolves like every other person, where you go into and you're like, well, they say I have PTSD and now they say I have panic attacks and da 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 da. And and they didn't even know what was wrong with me. They just gave me a random diagnosis. I mean, the PTSD was the right one, but the panic attack was the wrong one. And for many years, even though I fought them on that, and you have doctors that are so hell bent that if you're in my office, you've got to be bipolar. So now your official diagnosis is bipolar. Here's a bipolar pill. Have a nice day. Writes the same prescription for every single one of his patients. How is that helping anybody with any mental health disorder? So is it necessarily his fault? Not necessarily, because the system that is supposed to be there to help them, the system that you and I participate in and vote in by participating in the system, we expect that our government is going to take care of the weakest of us to make sure that we can at least, so that they can at least have something. That's why Social Security was put in place, was because grandma outlived her whole family and then died alone in her own cabin eating dog food, instead of being able to, after all those years, be able to have something to live on even after her family was gone. Did I lose everybody? Beth Button. Okay, that's I never got it. I agree. Okay, hold on. I see a big drop, so I was just wondering. Either way, he should have never pulled that gun out on you, and I didn't happen to me, so I don't want to live with my. Uh, Either way, he should have never pulled out. Yeah, well, you know what? I agree. I mean, it is what it is. Okay. Well, no, I just saw like we went from 20 down to 12. It's like, dude, did I piss everybody off or what? So I don't know if it's just my numbers not updating correctly because of YouTube or what. So I don't which guy. So because honestly, I'm not gonna give out. I'm not gonna. Uh, I will put his. I don't know if I even should. I want to ponder on that, because I got to be careful too that I don't just that I got to be careful that I don't do something that's going to get me in trouble. Okay. As much as I want to push, there's only so far you can push before all of a sudden you end up with bracelets on that you don't want. Um, I just saw that I was 2 minutes behind. Is acting screwy. Okay. I just went to the shoe channel name. I won't even comment on it. Okay. So, okay, cool. Yeah, but I want to be at peace. Okay. Here's the thing. Okay, this is a lesson that I learned for those of you that are thinking about, this may not, because there's going to be, I forget what the exact term is, but people who lose everything, like what they had during the Great Depression, where people, like when they did the margin calls and they were completely bankrupt, people would, out of the skyscrapers and stuff, and land on the ground. Well, those guys, the thing is, when that happens, that the economics is getting tough and the economic times are getting rough. And for about the last 2 years, there's been a huge uptick in that, and we could see a lot more of that. Here's the thing: as somebody who had a business that I spent a lot of time working on really, really hard, and I lost it because of a similar incident like what happened today. But instead, my business partner was driving to an appointment, and it was another guy in another car who did the same thing when he had his wife and kid in the car while on the way to an appointment at 2 a.m. in the morning. Like, yeah, and I still don't understand how. Yeah, there's some questions I have about it, but I wasn't there, so I had to take his word for it. And so that in itself forced me to kind of close my business, because nobody's going to want to go to work when that's going to happen. And to lose all of that, yeah, it's like a punch in the gut. It's gonna really, really suck. But here's the thing: you'll learn about either being poor or going homeless, is that all that stuff that you coveted, all that stuff that you thought made you rich, didn't make you rich. It's the people you have around you, the community you have, the relationships you build. That's what makes you rich. It has nothing to do with dollars and cents. That's the lie they feed you to keep you playing into the system so that they can continue doing the Ponzi scheme that they have. But in reality, that's what's really important. I worked my butt off. I didn't get to spend time with my family because we are in the middle of an economic collapse. And if I said no to anything, I was automatically fired. And I had 4 jobs behind me, or excuse me, not 4 jobs. I had like 4 or 5 people behind me. Okay, and those 4 or 5 people, um, they were vying for my job, and they would have done it for cheaper, just because they wanted a job to put a roof over their head. And it's I gave up. I gave up the first year or so with my son, and I never got to see him. I was too busy sleeping and working and sleeping and working and sleeping and working to make sure that my family never ended up homeless. And when it all finally came crashing down, my family was more interested in having quality time with me than how much money I was making. And it's actually a common story when people have these breakdowns after working so hard and losing everything, is their family reminds them, we wanted you, we didn't want all that money and all that other stuff. Happiness is a well-cooked real cheese. Oh, you got your ascot right. Oh yeah, that is fucking amazing. But mm, anyways, this is really what's important in life. And so when you lose everything, whether it be because you lost your job due to AI, whether it be because you lost your fortune because of this trade war, it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is that you guys lost, is not worth that end game. Because here's the thing: you're failing to learn the lesson. Now, we can debate whether Christianity's right, Buddhism's right, Hinduism's right, whether Billy Meyer's right. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, when you get there, you'll find out. Right now, it's all speculation. And let's just say that you do reincarnate. Well, under the reincarnation theme, that would mean that you didn't learn your lesson, so you just hit the reset button, and now you're going to have another miserable life until you learn the lesson, because it's part of your evolution. Your parents have to teach you hard lessons. You can't learn everything you need to learn to evolve an eternal being in an 80-year lifespan. It's impossible. You need thousands, if not millions, of years of living and experiencing everything from every angle. Being a man, being a woman, being black, being white, being yellow, being orange. Okay, because you've got to experience everything from everything to have a full-on understanding of what the gift is that your Creator gave to you. Okay, and that's just my opinion. I know some of you guys may disagree with me, but that's just kind of how I feel about the situation. Um, but I see the world differently. I think that religion is a hindrance. If you want to understand your Creator, go look at what He created. That's the easiest way to figure it out. Okay, but it is what it is. Did they arrest him or take his guns to court? I'm on step from homeless, maybe half step. Edward, I will tell you, they took, from what I understand, they took him to jail, and he's got 3 felony counts on him, which is kind of nice. I mean, but again, the one that I want on him wasn't put on him, and that's the one that I want. Hey, Tux, I don't want to get in trouble, but you can own a cap and ball revolver. Yes, I know. I'm fully aware of this because of my buddy's fight for his Second Amendment right. He had to literally go to court and prove that he was sane. And once they proved he was sane, because he's a smithy, so he makes custom guns, and yeah. So yeah, he always used black powder weapons until then, but those are unregulated until they become very popular again, and that they will be regulated. So it's just a matter of time for them to become popular before they become regulated. Right now, it's ancient technology, but if this trade war continues, Donald Trump is actually starting to pull back. Tuck, did you know that Triple H is impersonating? Oh, we haven't heard a Triple H comment in a long time from us today, but it's a little bit crazy out there. Um, Life is crazy. The world is crazy. I left like a week after I left Cincinnati and I hopped my first train. No, not even a week, like just a couple of days later, there was a mass shooting in an area that I hung out at. Okay. Like I knew that area. I knew exactly where it was, what happened. I knew all the guys that were hanging out there. I knew exactly what happened. Okay. Because I hung out in that area, just because that's Homeless Row in Cincinnati. And so, I mean, I've kind of I've escaped a lot of that stuff because I've always been on the move. See, that's one of the advantages of being on the move. So if you're going to bug out or something like that, or you're thinking I'm going to be, the world's crazy, SHTF's happening, I'm going to bug out. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to get a backpack and you're going to just start walking, and you're going to find trails and you're going to find roads, and you're going to figure out a way to survive along the way. And that's kind of what you're going to do. And so like a lot of the stuff that I did, that's kind of how I lived. In the early days, I would greyhound around America. What I do is I go to a city, explore it until I was bored of it. I would end up having a job for probably about 2-3 months sometimes, and then I would take that money and I would grab a bus, because it's like I wanted a city that entertained me. It wasn't until I got to San Francisco that I was mesmerized. I was like, this is the city I want to live in for the rest of my life. Like, if you want endless things to do where you can't do it all in a lifetime, go live in San Francisco. Screw all the crazies. You can avoid them if you know what you're doing. I did. I used to hang up near the park. The Panhandle's got some of the best views of the East Bay and the big old docks. I wish I still had pictures from those days, man. But that was like 2007. And I had like a little like the basic AT&T burner phone. I've heard nightmare stories about the Greyhound buses. Now, yeah, they're crazy, Mitch. I've got a short gut hook machete. I call it Mr. Nasty. What, Mr. Nasty or Mr. Hanky? You should call it Mr. Hanky. Did you know that? True. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I've got to see. I'm about half step from homeless. The whole world is crazy, but I like the really crazy. Well, if you thrive in high stress situations, you'll be good in homelessness. Truly, you will. Okay. Tell me if it happens. Hopefully, someone will be alive to tell about it. Yeah. Well, dude, it's not too far off. It's really not. Donald Trump is, like I was just saying, he is toning down his rhetoric, toning down his policies, and he's starting to temper back the tariffs. Why? Because he realized that the whole world does not want to play ball with him. All those deals that he thought he would make, he didn't make. He didn't make a lot of deals at all. A lot of times they're like, oh yeah, we're making a deal, we're talking, we're going to get in this negotiated, because Trump is asking for so much. But he actually let his there was somebody that caught a clip of what he said, and it was like, oh, he just basically told them how to beat him. And how he did it was, hold on. How he did it was, he said, look, we're going to ask and we're going to make big ask, but if we don't get it, we're going to take what we can get. And it's like, no wonder nobody's budging, because they know that they got you by the short and curlies. You just basically gave away your whole playbook right there. I think that right there was Trump's demise. That is why we're losing the trade war, why we're losing the AI war, why China's kicking our ass right now. And it sucks, but it's true. Okay, let's see here. Okay, does any land around you actually have water, excess electric? Yes, Mitch. If you you're over on Patreon, so I put the ad that I did for Stephanie. I put it over there because I didn't want to put it up here. I might see if Stephanie might want me to put it up here public now that this guy's kind of out of the picture, because he was the reason why I was kind of pulling back to begin with, because I wasn't trying to create contention. I was trying to create cohesion. But anyways, if you watch that, you'll see I show where the water tower is, because the water tower is right over there. And then there's power lines that go along the main road. They'll come out to you. Also down here on the main road, there's power lines. You got plenty of power lines around here. Okay. Mitch, electric is easy with solar. Yeah, and quite frank, well, it depends. I was really excited to see you get an ad sponsor. Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to be able to. I mean, Stephanie, I did this as a gift for Stephanie because of all the good stuff that she did for me. I did it as a gift. She, like I've told her, she's an indirect sponsor. We have a program that's in place and it works just fine. If she wants to become an official sponsor, I would really like that, but she's an indirect sponsor because, quite frankly, she's invested in this community. She's part of this community, whether you guys realize it or not. So she is just as much of a rebel as you guys are and as I am. So she is family to us. And so therefore we make sure that we share families' information so that we can treat them well, because they treat us well. That's about, see, you get to choose your friends, not your family, but your friends become your extended family. Okay. Just watch the video. Glad you're okay, bro. Hey, did the cops arrest the guy? Yes. There's all kinds of stuff. It's easy with solar. Yes. Okay. At Smoking Swamp. Yeah, I think he's in county. Yeah. Good evening. It's federal. I don't know about. Well, I don't know. It depends. They're probably going to charge him at a state crime. That because it's a felony, it goes to the state. If the feds decide to move in, but because the arresting officers were county, it's going to start in county, but it's going to go to state charges. Because it's a felony. Now, the counties get to reside over misdemeanors, but any felony, which is a year or longer in jail, any felony is it goes to the state or the feds if the feds decide to pick it up. But if the state picks it up and then the feds want to pick it up, then it becomes double jeopardy, and they can't do that. So around 7 to 10 miles, if I understand correctly. How far? It's 3.5 miles into town, but I walked about 9 miles today because I had to take the long way around, so I could avoid them until the cops showed up, which was a good thing, because if I would have walked back the original way, the cops would have showed up. Essentially, I would have already walked by his place again. So if I would have gone that way, but he was jealous about Stephanie, I think, and that you're a smart guy. He wasn't jealous. It was about survival and fear of loss. There's no jealousy there. It was more a lot about fear, because here's the thing: for us to be able to live out here, we have to kind of keep our heads down and keep our mouths shut and deal with things within the community. Sometimes you've got to bring outside forces in, but generally it should be dealt with through the community, because that's the only thing that allows us to be able to live out here, because we're self-governing. So you want to be in a self-governing community. This is going to be the closest self-governing community you have. Like I said, we got a mayor already. He knows everybody around here. He's been in the area for like a decade, so he knows everybody. He is our, you could call him, honestly, just because of the way I know him, I call him our quasi mayor. But he's about the closest thing to a mayor that this town has that I know of. I don't know of any other advocates that keep ties with the community and make sure to keep everything going together, because that's basically what the mayor did. Is he was a peacemaker to make sure everybody was getting along. So um, so I think that, again, that this is, if you want to live a self-governance lifestyle, this is going to be your closest way to do it. Um, that's good about the mayor. Yeah. Or order pizza. Okay, you ask? No, they won't come out here, Mitch. I'm like 30 miles from the nearest town, decent town. Okay, could you actually call an Uber? No, I can't call an Uber. I can't order pizza. I have to go to St. John's to get pizza. That's the county seat, is St. John's. Okay. Fear of gentrification. Yeah, and you know what? He might be able to get off if his lawyer uses it as a crime of passion, and uses that as the angle. And therefore, as a crime of passion, it'll probably drop it down to a low class misdemeanor. He'll probably get some stripped rights and so on and so forth. I mean, that's one way that it could turn out, but it also depends. It depends upon the players involved and how they want to move, because this is a chess game. Okay. Coming from, but yeah, I understand that too, and I agree with you. Um, but I also, at the same time, I also don't want to get myself hated around here either. I think a lot of people would like more businesses to move into town, which, in order for more businesses to move into town, you have more population, so that you have a business to do it. And then, the crap that's happening at Jiffy, you gotta, yeah. Some people know about it, some people don't. I'm not talking about it publicly. I'll talk about it behind Patreon. So if you really want to get the uncensored stuff, you're gonna have to go over to Patreon. Okay. But again, if you come over to Patreon and you become a paid member, the right to privacy is extremely important to me. So whatever's said and done in there stays in there, does not come out of there. That is extremely, extremely important. Okay, because sometimes things happen. I put things in there that I don't want to have public, because I put it in there for a breadcrumb to be able to, in a lot of ways, to protect myself. Okay, because if something happens to me, I want to be able to leave a trail of crumbs of, like, okay, here we go. All right, so this is something that I want you guys to understand, that if you do come over and get behind the paywall, what's said there stays there. It's kind of like Vegas. What's done in Vegas stays in Vegas. Okay, that's the way it is in Patreon. That is something that I am extremely, extremely anal about. And you want to see me get really, 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 really pissed, violate that. Yeah, because I will, I will take every bit of knowledge that I have to rain down hell on you. Yeah, and you could do more destruction with the pen than you ever could with the sword. That's why I don't walk around with a weapon. Um, as long as I'm dealing with civil people and I know how to be able to interact with people and stuff like that, as long as you deal with people on a civil manner, you should never have to worry about being armed. Because even in that situation, me being armed would never have saved me in that situation, other than we would have had both exchanging fire back and forth. And what would that have solved? Okay, that didn't solve anything. Being an unarmed man, only a coward is going to take out an unarmed man. I got to become a member. Yes, privacy is very important. Yes, Edward. $5 a month get you in, and I would really encourage you to show up to the morning live streams. Captain, if you go down in the description, there is my Patreon link. In the Patreon link, you can go there and you'll click on memberships. It's also, you can download an app on your phone that will allow you to get into the private chat, because it's only available through the app. Unfortunately, that's just the way Patreon is. And quite frankly, 70% of you guys have phones anyways. So I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Even Beth has got it. So just download the app, sign up for the membership, but do it through the website, because if you have an iPhone, they will charge you 50% more. Whereas if you just do it through, the website, then it circumvents all of that so that you pay the real price, because it's 5, 10, and 20. Okay, it's not 8, 15, and 30. Okay, which is what you would see if you try to do iOS pay. Don't do iOS pay. Okay, that I don't understand why it's that way, but Apple started charging them that, and so they passed it down to me, which therefore passes it down to any iOS customer. That's why I tell them, do the website, you will save 50%, or actually 30%. So, so you could have a pet hog. A hungry can eat a grown man in 8 minutes. Wow. You know, that's don't give people ideas. Okay. Farm Girl used to tell me all the different ways you could dispose of and I'm like, no, I don't want to know that. I don't care. And although it might be pertinent information one day, I don't want to know. Okay. Because yes, the thing is the more pissed off I get, the more the more pissed off I get, the more centralized. So kind of what you saw this morning, another reason why I was staying calm is because I had enough adrenaline running, and when adrenaline's running, the whole world slows down. So everything goes from all like fast paced, like what everybody else sees. But when you're going through the adrenaline rush, it's like the whole world slows down. Okay. And when that whole world slows down, um, Sam snoring. When that whole world slows down, you get to see things from a whole different perspective. And as the whole thing, I was just noticing, I was just like getting really, really, really pissed. So I feel bad for a hungry pig. I need a hog tuck. We got plenty hate in Florida, as you know. Yeah, I know that there's some counties where unless you're white, you're not allowed in them. I think it's Broward County, if I'm not mistaken. I met a guy that was displaced due to the Hurricane Ian, who was telling me, the blacks got to stay over on a certain part of town. It's completely segregated, completely like 1860s racial. So yeah, there are still pockets of that here in this country, unfortunately. The world actually speeds up to your thought process. I can relate. Yeah, so I mean, it's really weird. The first time it happened to me that I'm aware of was when I was 15. Okay, and then couple that with PTSD, all of a sudden it makes me very dangerous. So okay, here I meant okay. So we got turkey barns around here, and East Turkey Bone has an incinerator out in the middle of nowhere. Huh? That's good to know. Remind me never to piss you guys off. Okay, so we've been going at this for about an hour. I've plugged Patreon and everything else like that. For those of you that are part of my evening crew and that are used to getting my morning stuff, so I go through, like, when I come down from a big adrenal rush, this is kind of how it affects me. At first, I'm really anxious and I feel like I want to like rip out of my skin. And then once I finally get to a point where I calm down, so I medicated myself. Once I got to a point where I calm down, then I get tired, then I get sad, and then all of a sudden I think all of my, I don't know how I reacted, because inside it's complete chaos, like what's going on inside my head, but nobody sees it on the outside. I'm getting to watch this on a camera going like, oh, nobody really noticed. That's why nobody really notices, because it's like on the inside, it's just like fireworks, but on the outside, you guys don't see a damn thing. And so like it would make me a little paranoid for a while, because I would be wondering if I made a fool of myself when I went through a fit of hysteria. But nobody ever said I made a fool of myself. And after kind of, getting to see myself on camera, I kind of understand now. But um all right. Moments with Mitch. What about a gator, Tuck? You want a pet alligator? No, because it'll eat Sam. I like Sam. I mean, when she's getting old and decrepit and can't crawl up into the trailer, then I might ask you for a pet alligator, but then he'd probably eat me too. Okay, let's see here. I know exactly what you mean. It's dissociation. Okay, yeah. Dude, when I was in the hospital for 23 days, I met a lady that was a 911 call center manager, and um, that lady was dissociating, and she dissociated for 6 weeks. Did not know where she was, what she'd been doing, whole 9 yards. She's completely checked out. That was scary. She was in the hospital, and the reason why is because she couldn't stop dissociating. And then once she came to, she'd freak out, and then she'd dissociate again. And it just kept making it worse until finally one day they picked her up. But she had been in that hospital for almost 2 months. They weren't sending her to, because like once you're there for I think it's like 21 days, then they have to evaluate you to send you to the state hospital. And if they don't send you to the state hospital, then they got to form an exit plan. But that girl was so far gone, she didn't need to go to the state hospital, but they needed to figure out how to help her. So yeah, like yeah, dissociation. Yeah, I met a lady, man. I felt so bad for her. She was the nicest lady. She was like she was the hospital mama, because she'd been there for so long, and we all made friends with her. She was a pretty cool lady. Got to hear 911 stories and kind of why it was so bad for her and stuff. Oh man, I would have had that fight. I would have gone full special. Yeah, but no. See, the thing is you got to understand the situations. When he pointed it at me, what could I do? If he was a good shot, I was already done. I can't stop it. Even if I reach for something, by the time, the thing is now I am ensuring that he's going to fire by me pulling out a weapon. Okay, by me not pulling out a weapon, he realizes that I'm unarmed, and so therefore, I think this might be ingrained instinctually. But once you realize that a man is unarmed, all of a sudden your defense is stopped down, because now you have the upper hand, and you just tell them to move on. But this guy chose to continuously escalate it, to that point. But anyways, at that point, as soon as he pulled it out, there was nothing I could do. He pulled it out in probably about 3 to 4 seconds. And it was pretty slow too, and pretty sloppy. So somebody that's good could pull out in 1 to 2 seconds. I mean, just pop, just like that. So I got to see that, and I'm just like, there's no way I could. I wasn't expecting him to do that, so there was no way I could have closed ground enough, because I think you can get like 27 feet before he can pull it out, and I could have had him to the ground and pistol whipped him with it. At that point in time, does another weapon help me? No. I'm going to be more versatile on my feet with my two hands, with my body, than I ever would with a weapon. A weapon, in some senses, is a false sense of security in most situations. It does work in some situations, but I would say in most it doesn't. Having a weapon is not advantageous unless you've got something that is like a blade, like a 3 to 6 inch blade, something like that you can sit there and keep on your belt loop. That's about the only thing that you would need in a situation, because you're, again, in most instances, you're in close quarters with people. I chose to go to the other side of the road because I knew he didn't want to be. I knew he didn't want to be filmed, so I was being courteous of it, and I was kind of, if you notice, I was pointing the camera away just to say, like, no, I'm not recording you. And if you guys probably heard that, and then and then it just continued to escalate. But at the same time, I don't know, this is just the way I look at it. I have This was one of those times where I kind of wish it would have been nice to have one, but it would have never helped me. It would have been there as a deterrent more than anything. because I had a backpack on. I had my dog with me. There are people living around there. So then, you've got stray things going all over the place. That's the last thing you want to worry about. Okay. So, no, man, you did the right thing. I'm just telling you, I would have been special. Yeah. And you probably wouldn't be here either, Chris. Getting away is always better. Live to fight another day. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So what? I couldn't go and do, and thrash him, or do whatever I want to do and just let my full adrenaline out on him until I was satisfied. But I couldn't do that because of the way the situation worked. So I had a plan B, which was to involve outside forces, and so therefore I did it. There is more than one way to skin a cat, but when you lose all those other different ways to skin a cat, it all of a sudden changes the dynamics for you. And I'm not prepared for that. And I don't think anybody's really prepared for that, because we rely on some sense of rationality going on in somebody's head. And if the world really falls apart, there's not going to be any rationality. But anyways, guys, I'm going to let you all go. I will see you guys tonight, or excuse me, tomorrow morning over on Patreon. Okay. So I'll see you then. Thanks for being here. Have a great day, guys.